this game, the run kind of starts before you even really get into the game, because one of the things you need to decide for playing this game is what your control scheme is going to be. I personally use the second listed control scheme, with shoot being on A, B being on jump, and C being a dash. The thing is that your actual dash function you don't use that much in regular movement. You use it like whilst jumping a lot, but most of your actual movement is done with the slide mechanic, which I'll get into as I start. But one thing you do need to know about this game as well is that if you want to like move really optimally and efficiently, it is definitely worth using an overhand grip for this game. I don't use an overhand grip personally, and it kind of handicaps me in my ability to play the game, but I can still play it decently enough to get, a good time on the board. So 26 is, a perfectly good time for the game, considering world record's like a high 23, and it's very, very optimized. So we'll go anyway. Timing for this game starts when you pick start here, but for actually getting through the game, the first obstacle that you have is that this is not a linear game. You don't just play the levels in a static order. You can choose which level to go to begin with. And the first stage that you want to go to in this game is Mexico. So go here, and yeah, you just immediately get into the game. You move around left, right, and stuff. It's a 2D platformer. I mentioned that the way you want to move in this game, generally speaking, is by using the slide. So that is done by using the jump button actually while you're ducking. If you just duck and slide, or jump, that is, you can slide around like this, and you just keep repeatedly pressing the jump button, and you will, you'll do this. And then if at any point you press jump while you are not holding down, like when you then transition to a direction, then you'll jump. So jumping while you are holding the dash button will give you a lot more distance. So if this is why like an overhand grip is very preferred a lot of the time, so that you can hold the dash button and be like doing the slide like this, and then just jump out of it with the dash button already enabled, which makes sense. But by and large, we'll just take another death, I guess. And I'll be using save states as well. So we'll just like move through the game normally a bit. So periodically you're going to find enemies that like have satchels on them like this, and those enemies will drop pickups, which is nice. And it's important to note as well that with the plunger you can shoot it in 4 directions. You can't shoot it down, but you can shoot left, right, and you can shoot directly up as well. That's important to note. Now, notice here, this is a neat little piece of movement tech, which is like very not immediately obvious. The way that I slid towards this slope and went up it very quickly. You'll notice when I went up that slope there, it was very slow that time. So the way that this works is that if you approach a slope after ending your slide, then you just get a lot more speed up the slope. See, it's a bit more pronounced there, but you typically get the most out of it by sliding towards it, turning away, and then turning back towards the slope. Like, I really don't understand that well how this works, but if you do that and ascend up the slope at the right time, while holding the dash button, you can get like an insane amount of speed going up the slopes. And you can just very consistently get like more speed than you're supposed to. Same thing like can happen with going down slopes as well. But the consistent factor seems to be that you need to initiate the, or you need to come out of the sliding animation and be in the running animation before you actually hit the slope itself. So you see like right there I got a big speed boost going down that slope, and it didn't really look like I did anything particularly special. Kind of want health. Thank you, sir. So pretty basic platforming on sections like these. Now there are a couple of very advanced pieces of movement tech in this game, which for the purpose of just giving like a basic overview and tutorial like this, I am not going to go into. If you want to see like the most advanced way that you can move through screens like this, you can feel free to watch the top couple of runs by Tenebrae and Gym Time John. They are much better at the game than I. Oh no, damage. So once you reach the end of Mexico, you can't progress into the pyramid here. This is kind of the thing about the routing in this game, that there's all these stages, and at the end of certain stages there are sections that you can go into, such as you can go inside the pyramid here, but we don't currently have the item to do it. So when you reach the end of a stage like this, you plant a flag in the ground. When you're near the flag, you can press start to open the menu, and you can call the airplane. So this like takes you out the stage, and now when I return to the same stage, it'll put me where the flag was, at the end of the stage. So once you've reached the end of Mexico there, you want to go to Duckburg now. Duckburg is your stage 2, even though it's the first listed stage. Now, something that only shows up a couple of times through the game is these chili peppers. You get these chili pepper pickups. You can see in the bottom left of the screen there's the temper meter. It fills up for 1 for each of these that you pick up, and once you fill the temper meter, Donald goes fucking ratch, and this is the fastest movement you can get in the game. So there's only a couple of opportunities you're going to get to use this, but highly recommended to pick up the chilies whenever you can. This is one of the spots you get it. You can also do it in Maharaja and in Egypt, which I'll just show when you get there. Once you reach the end of Duckburg like this, you just get given the hero's key if you've already been to the end of Mexico. And so we just exit the stage again. So now we can go into the pyramid in Mexico. Ideally jump over the spot where you interact with this NPC. It's a bit tight, but you can do that. And just use the key in front of the door. And we can just go inside the pyramid. So, yeah, ladders are pretty simple. You need to be under them and, you know, hold up to go up ladders, which is pretty self-explanatory. Just get the health pickup. Now these things are weird. You need to shoot these things with a plunger to get them to remain stationary, and it will turn them into temporary platforms. Getting those guys is a little tricky to do it quickly. Ideally in these sections, I mean, getting that turkey pickup before is good so that you have plenty of health to damage boost in these spots. Now, something that's fairly important to know for doing full runs of this is that you really want to stop off here, because you have extra popcorn. You see here that popcorn is like a secondary weapon that I can use. We don't want to use it yet, but you do want to pick up this extra popcorn. It's 5 popcorn for each one you pick up, and you use 5 popcorn per shot. So basically each one you pick up, it gives you 1 usage of the popcorn shot. And if you want to go the fastest possible here, this is the point where you would equip the popcorn and use 1 shot here, because you can get both of these things like this. But the thing is, it's kind of tricky that you need this bottom one to have lifted off the ground, and like this is really not easy to land. It's, yeah. I'm going to try a couple of times to get this, but this is like not an easy trick at all. Yeah, you can see like that's hard. It's absolutely like not necessary to go for this. It'll just save you like a bit of time. Basically like an extra cycle if you can get that. But either way, you can see it's not a huge time saver. Since you need to wait for this guy to come up so that you can shoot him again to be a secondary platform again. You can shoot that guy from underneath. Hopefully shoot that guy as he's coming down, but the jumps can be tricky. Right. This fire jumps up, so just watch out for that. And once you reach Goofy, you don't get a flag here, so once you get the red plunger from Goofy, which makes plungers stick to walls and they become platforms you can jump off, this is very important for the rest of the game. Now we just need to manually exit the pyramid. So the green head things, for the most part, do despawn from here. But yeah, you ideally want to have a little bit of spare health, because there are still some forced obstacles on the way back. Such as, I'm going to be very conservative here, but I'm sure you can see that if you have the health to spare here, you can just damage boost through the flames. Because taking damage doesn't actually make you let go of the ladder. So rather than manually climbing this ladder like this, it's a little better to just shoot some plungers on the wall and get a bit of a higher start on the ladders, like that. These guys do jump, which when they jump you can get them with a ducking shot to just get past them easily. Now if you don't have like if for some reason you didn't get the turkey on the way in, getting it here is definitely like worth doing just for safety here, because you really don't want to take a death here, because I don't think the game actually saves that you have the red plunger, so you do actually need to do a full visit through the pyramid again. Otherwise it would just be better to take a death warp, so I'm pretty sure the game doesn't let you save that. But once you have that, just exit out the pyramid, go at the flag, call the airplane, and go back to Duckburg again. Because now that we have the red plunger, we can use it as a wall platform here and go further into the stage. Like so. And there is a lot of like wall scaling in this game using the red plunger like this. Getting like the most mileage out of it is a little tricky to get used to, but yeah. It's very easy to die on this pit, so I personally take that really slow and safe. Same here as well, like it's very easy to fall here and just take a death. Now once you get into this screen, this is pretty much an auto-scroller. Just grab onto the pulley and transition between the pulleys. I just have the dash button held down the whole time here. And yeah, every time you need to jump from one pulley to another, just do so. Going to this second one is better because you get the health and the popcorn ammo. Then there's 1, 2, and then you need to transition to one more halfway down this. That one can actually be a little easier than it seems to miss. So we get gyro here, and he gives you the bubblegum ammo. So this is the third form of ammunition you have in this game. Which, the popcorn is very situational, it's only really used in a couple of spots and a couple of boss fights, but the bubble is actually important for progression in quite a lot of spots. So you need to pick this up and you need to like conserve ammo with it where possible. But there's certain spots where you should just use it and, you know, when not using it, just revert back to the plunger IMO. Whoops. Not what I wanted to do there. Not what I wanted to do there either. Just for the sake of demonstration, I'm gonna like go back and do this. I mean, if you are actually good at this game, there are much faster ways to set this up, but you can just jump over like that and basically skip out a little bit of that section. Just don't fall down that one pit. Hopefully, manage to get a quick slide off there and just call the airplane again. So now that we have the red plunger and the bubblegum, now we go to Transylvania. This is what I mean, that like at the very start of the game, Transylvania is open, but there is basically nothing you can do here if you choose this as your first stage. Try and abuse the weird slope mechanics where possible again. So that's kind of what I mean by, because I hit the slope before I went out of the animation, I didn't like get a speed boost there. It's just weird. I have a very poor understanding of what actually dictates when you get the speed boost. And yeah, try not to fall in the water, it is an instant death. Because video games. So yeah, you plant the flag there, but we can just go straight into the castle, and this is the first spot where you actually need the bubble to progress. The bubble gum ammo destroys optional walls and stuff. Whenever you see something that's like clearly an optional wall, it's the bubble gum ammo that destroys it. But you want to climb this one wall and use the bubble gum ammo here. Keep it on for this spot. And if you, use it in the correct spot, you can destroy all 4 of those barrels in one. Change back to the plunger here to ascend this wall, straight back to the bubblegum ammo once you're up this wall. Just slide past everything, you need one usage here. Keep it equipped so that you can use one here. And there's a green bubble that falls out of the barrel here, which if you just charge full steam ahead, you will actually run into it and take damage, so just wait a tiny amount of time before you progress there. And straight down into the water room. So now at this point you can just re-equip the plunger. You want to take the bottom path here. You're probably going to end up doing a lot of damage boosting here. Just try and keep a little bit of health in reserve. And take this upper path for all of the pickups. The health is very nice, if nothing else. And then try to land that red plunger somewhere on the wall where you can get it quickly like that. But we just want to jump up to the top here. As you can see, you need to like reach the very top of the screen. So, yeah, you do need a lot of height there. So this is an infinitely looping corridor if you don't do the correct thing, which is to use the bubblegum ammo here to release a moving platform. If you get on this too quickly and take damage on the moving ghosts while it's moving up, the stun time will actually make the platform keep moving without you, and you can lose a fair bit of time from that. Okay, now this is somewhere where once I move a certain amount through this room, I'm going to make a save state, because this is one of the weirdest rooms in the game. I just need to get far enough through the room first. Okay, at this point I'm going to make a save state. So I'm just going to do the room normally first. You need to ascend up this wall, which is coming towards you from the left, using the plungers. And then you just move on to the next room as normal. But if you want to go slightly faster in this room, and I do mean to the tune of like 1 second faster, there is a skip/wrong warp you can use in this room. I have no idea why this works, but you can see here that this part of the left-hand wall is possible to be hit with the plungers. I say that part of it specifically because if you shoot much higher up, you can see they just go straight through. So what you ideally are looking for here is to get a plunger as high up as you can on this wall here. Get a plunger as low as possible on that wall so that you can get up here, and you can go into this wall. And if you just keep going to the left like this, then, you know, doesn't really look like much happens. But if you jump at a specific point, you will get wrong warped to the next room and take a death, and you'll respawn in the next room. This is one of the weirdest skips I've ever come across in speedrunning, and like, when you execute this perfectly, this saves about 1 second over doing the regular wall climb, and that means you need to like get both of these plunger hits, like these ones, pretty much first try each, for it to save any time. But if you do, then you can just go through here. Do I even remember the point of this? See, here's the problem. If you jump too early, there's a specific point where if you jump too early here, it doesn't wrong warp you. You just take a regular death. I believe. If you really struggle with this, you can do it like that. But yeah, like, when you jump early, like, weird stuff happens and the room really starts behaving strangely. So, yeah. It's a weird one. It is a weird one, suffice it to say. And yeah, it's actually fairly easy to die there if you're too slow. But either way, if we progress normally, this is one of the last rooms in the area. So, just plunger as normal, we want to go up here. And this brings us to our first boss fight. So, save state. So this boss doesn't really start until you actually... Oh no, okay, it does start regardless. So as soon as this boss fight starts, you want to go straight up to Duck Killer like this. Now, every time he opens his cape and releases the bats, he's just vulnerable. The recommended way to do this is to stand right under him and just fire up as soon as he's vulnerable. It's a fairly narrow hitbox, but you can get him right as he releases the bats, just before they become solid. Like so. He'll always go at the same spots, left and right, so if you just learn to recognize where he's going to be and try and time your shots accordingly, you can get him very consistently from underneath. The timing is a little odd. It could definitely take some getting used to. But this is a fairly elementary fight to get the hang of with a little bit of practice. My recommended method for avoiding the bats in this fight is to do the shot and then just slide away as fast as you can. Because they'll return to him after a certain point. So it should just be 2 more hits here, because he'll be on the left here for 1 more shot. And now on the next cycle, he's going to stay in the same spot but go higher. But you can still just get him from underneath. And that was actually a bit early, but still, you can just get him from underneath, as normal. And this gives you the treasure map. So, we'll just exit the castle, and, yep, call the plane. And this opens up a lot of new areas that we can go to. We can go to the Viking ship, Egypt, South Pole, and Maharaja. Maharaja is the next spot you want to go to. And this is the next spot where you get the chili peppers that you can collect. Which, this time they drop off enemies. So there's 5 specific enemies you want to attack here for the chili peppers. So this is where you get the 5th one. And I actually missed it, lol. I'm going to take a death then. Alright. Oh god, it saved the night. Okay. That's not really when you meant to get that, but see, the annoying thing about this is that I can't really showcase that if you get the chili peppers late enough, you can actually ascend up that wall. Like, Donald will just climb up walls when he's under the influence of the peppers like that. These snake charmer guys, just go through them. Just damage boost through them. I will go back and show exactly why you want to damage boost through them. Because the music notes that they play here, it completely stuns you, and you just have to wait for the snake to come and get you. Like, you can't move while you're under the influence of that, so it's much better to just take a single damage boost through the snake charmers. Either way, we enter the Maharaja's palace, and jump over him to avoid talking to him. So now this section is a maze. There is a specific route of doors you want to take through here. I believe you want to avoid this, I think, and go in this end one. I may be wrong. Go to the right here, I believe. Yeah, looking correct. Avoid this door, scale up the wall, and go in this door here. Now you're going to need to damage boost off a snake charmer, so that you can just get through the next one without any problem. Okay, there we go. So now, at this point, you want to switch to the popcorn, because now I've got another boss fight. So I'm going to save state here. This is the tiger, and I'm really just going to show the way that you want to do this fight. You ideally just want to do this fight by jumping and popcorn shotting him in the face as he jumps. Not entirely sure how to get him to not attack between each cycle, but all you need is like 6 solid shots with the popcorn. That's literally all this fight is. You can fight him with the other weapons, but I do not recommend it. It is tricky at best to deal with him jumping around when you don't have the popcorn, and he will get stunned as well. Like, even if you land successful hits, you can see that it stuns him every time you do it. And this is the same for the bubblegum, but the bubblegum is like even more unreliable to hit him with. Because you can't have more than 1 shot on screen, and yeah. It's like, it's not a good time. So trust me, just use the popcorn. Every time you get like close enough to him and jump, basically, he'll jump towards you. You can pretty much just learn some pretty elementary timing for when to shoot him in the face with the popcorn. And it really is that simple. Without the popcorn, that is a tricky fight. With the popcorn, it's beyond trivial. And then just get the, just get the door. Slide into the prince to get the Sphinx tier, and exit out of Maharaja. Slide once towards the flag and call the airplane. And now that we have the Sphinx tier, the next place we go to is Egypt. And this is also the last area where we actually use the chili peppers. Oh yeah, at this point you also do want to have re-equipped the plunger before you enter the stage, I'd say. And this actually really sucks because I'm not going to have the benefit of the peppers, so I'm actually just going to take a game over here. Because you kind of need that. Right. Alright, how about I do things correctly? So you get 1, 2, third guy's here. And now there's quite a bit of travelling before you reach the other ones. You can slide over this quicksand, but you need to jump out of it after a certain point. So now the last two enemies that have them are these guys here. And even though you need to backtrack a bit, like, the speed boost that you get is just, it's more than worth going for this chili pepper. You want to ideally turn back before you just run into here, so that Donald will turn back a little faster, rather than just slide towards the end of the screen, and use the Sphinx tier here to open the pyramid and go inside. So this is quite a tricky stage overall, but it's not too bad. And there is like a mini skip that you can use in this stage. If indeed you can call it a skip, but you'll see what I mean. Again, try and scale as much of the wall with plunges as you can just to avoid the climbing speed. Then go up this secret passage on the right. Just to go straight to the next screen. And now, probably one of the most difficult screens in the game for movement. If you are super good at overhand stuff, you can get away with sliding on all the narrow platforms here, but if you have a normal controller grip like me, then you really want to play this screen safe. Tricky to get used to. You kind of just have to really practice that screen. Now this is a screen where you really benefit from what I've shown about getting a little boost from sliding before you reach the end of a slope here. If you just use the normal running speed, this is basically the room that the normal dash is really intended for. Because you won't outrun these fire jets without the dash. All I'm doing here is I'm holding right and I'm holding the dash button, and you know, you get through the screen just fine. But if you can get used to getting like the little dash boosts, then you can get some real crazy speed boosts here. Like, that wasn't even a particularly strong speed boost that I got there. That one was much faster. See if I can get a really big speed boost going up a slope. It was alright. I'm really not getting good speed boosts there. But alright, so a little thing that I kind of need to show here. So when you reach the end of the room here, continue dashing and holding right if you want to. You need to hold right here because there's a straight drop there. If you don't keep holding right, you'll just fall into the fire. Now, a little thing that you can attempt if you're feeling really ballsy is whenever you enter the ducking animation like that, Donald continues to move a little on flat ground. If you fall off a ledge like this, you can still use a slide in midair. So you can do that. And that is a little faster, but you really need to make sure that you don't mistime anything, that you actually are in the ducking animation, because if you come out of it Like that's the thing. If you accidentally come out the ducking animation, then you can't reduck in the air. So that's really easy to mess up. I would like only go for that if you're really confident about getting that. So now for this room here, if the intended method for this room is that the treasure map that we got from Transylvania shows you the order of panels that you need to jump off to disarm the trap here. Because when you go into this room, there's this trap that comes down, and it'll eventually just crush you. Like so. But, as we see from the thing, it lists the order of panels you need to jump off to disarm it. So sun, moon, star. If you are not confident using the skip for this room, you can just do this. And once you jump off those in order, it'll disarm the trap. And then you can progress as normal. If you want to do the room fast, then you don't need to do it at all. Because if you get to the right and scale the wall and reach the scepter before the wall comes down, then it just disarms the trap automatically. If you don't reach the scepter in time, though, the game will crush you, even though you're not in the crushable area. So let's say I got up here, but the game will continue to drag you down. And that kills you. So yeah, don't get killed by that. And even if you could leave the room without the Scepter of Ra, you need this to progress through the game. So. And you can't get out of the room in time anyway. TLDR, you need to obtain the Scepter of Ra there. So just scale up the wall and get the Scepter as quickly as possible. And now you can go down the ladder. Now for the minecart section here, this is one of the most annoying movement mechanics in the game. Because this is extremely disorienting, the way that these minecarts will completely reset your momentum. There's a couple of spots in here where you need to jump from minecart to minecart, and even though you pick up a lot of speed like that, every time they drop you off, it completely resets your momentum. So you need to keep holding in the direction you're going to make it to the next minecart, even though it doesn't seem like it. If you don't like really commit to doing that, you won't make the distance. It's very disorienting, and you kind of just have to try it for yourself to see what I mean. But now that we have the Scepter of Ra, we go to the South Pole. Try and abuse slope mechanics, as ever. Now, a nifty little thing that you can try and do with these platforms is if you just stand on these platforms, you'll go down very fast. It's tricky to stand on them in a spot where you'll actually stay on them, though, because if you get on them with too much speed, you'll like slip off them and it interrupts your momentum. But since we're dealing with ice physics here, one thing you can do to reliably stay on these is if you slide onto them and then fire a shot, it will stop you dead in your tracks. So if you think you're going to slide off them, you can just fire a shot and you're guaranteed to just stay on it. Which is pretty handy. Works here as well, very nicely. And then you just get a lot of speed. So we reach the end here and we plant a flag, but we need to use the Scepter of Ra first to melt the ice. And we get the Viking key. Now that you have the Viking key, just call the airplane again, and now we go onto the Viking ship. Please. Yeah, it's real easy to take damage here. Some would say too easy. And once you reach the end of the screen, just scale up the wall. Get in the basket so it takes you up. And do the same thing again at the bottom. You can just run straight down. Take the first pulley here that you see. You can just slide straight off here. If you want to try and get a speed boost up the slope, feel free, but it's a tricky one. And once you reach the end of here, you can just slide off the end here and you'll hit the loading trigger all the same. Ideally, try and jump over the Viking if you can to avoid talking with him, as you see there's a lot of text there. And use the Viking key to unlock the Viking ship. Now, there's a long route and a short route through here. I'm just going to show the short route. You want to ignore this first ladder and go over here. You can, for some reason, I believe if you're fast enough here, you can just jump over these ghosts. And Donald, like, doesn't care about them. It's a bit weird. Yeah, like, it's really weird how you can just jump over those ghosts. And you want to just take this ladder down here. Yeah, if you're not fast enough, you'll take a hit there. But this drops you off exactly where you need to be for the boss fight. So for this boss fight, you should still have some popcorn left. You want to deal the first hit in this fight with the popcorn, just because it's an easy way to get a free hit. This boss loves to block a lot. Like, I'll start the fight again, I'll show that if you try and plunger him normally, he blocks a lot of your shots with this shield, and it can be tricky to get him. But if you just start the fight with the popcorn, you'll get a free hit in. And now you want to switch the bubblegum. This is one of the only times in a boss fight where you actually use the bubblegum. And there's a specific visual cue that I like to use here, where Donald is, like, currently standing in front of this pillar in the background. And the timing of when you want to fire the shots depends on, basically, when I see the head reattached to the body there, I jump and release a bubblegum shot. And it should land at the right time to have the bubble collide with him when he becomes active. Move a little bit to the left so that Donald is just to the left of the pillar, and repeat the same for the remaining cycles. So this is just a pattern of... Dude, please. Dude, please. I'm really bad. So, bubblegum. Jump and shoot. Jump and shoot. I got too close. Yeah, I need to make sure I'm actually letting the shot land before I then realign for the remaining shots. And I believe this is the last shot. Yeah. And then you just get out. So now we have the green plunger. And we just call the airplane again and go straight back to the South Pole now. The game is actually nearly over at this point. So now that we have the green plunger, this allows us to latch onto enemies. So I'm actually going to equip the plunger and reset the room. And this allows us to ride on enemies. So you can grab onto this. Now, an important thing to note here, you can make these screens when you are hovering on enemies like this very difficult for yourself or very easy for yourself. There's these birds that try and drop bombs on you. Currently, if you just stay in a default position like this makes it harder than necessary. Because, you know, you'll find that you surprisingly easily get hit by bombs, and it's pretty difficult to dodge. But there's a very easy way to deal with this. Literally all you need to do is tap left, so that Donald is facing the right. Because it physically changes where your hitbox is, but the birds will still, nonetheless, drop the bombs where they expect you to be on the left side. So as long as you are just not on the same elevation as the birds when the bombs drop, you just will not get hit by the bombs. Literally just face Donald off to the right like this, and then, like I say, as long as you're not at the same height as the bombs, you will never get hit by them. Game is programmed well. I don't know how they overlooked this, but I'm glad that they did, because it makes these sections extremely easy. Then once you're over solid ground, just jump off and we get to progress here now. No! You don't really have enough room here to try and exploit the slope mechanics, which kind of sucks. But, yeah, you can kind of try it here. Try and avoid the orcas. They have a surprisingly wide hitbox. Like that, yeah. It's very easy to take accidental deaths like that. So I'll make a save state once I get back to the next room. Let's make this harder. Oh dear. See, even at double speed you can dodge it as long as you're paying attention. Alright, we'll save state. This is one spot where holding the dash button will make it a lot easier to get between these ice blocks. So, this screen is really important for saving time. If you want to go fast in this game, this is where we have an actual legitimate skip. So, this game really doesn't have much in the way of skips, but this is an actual skip that you can use. This was discovered by Yellow Killer Bee like quite a while ago. Basically, the end of the level is right underneath us now. But breaking these blocks is easier said than done. I mentioned before that you can't fire shots directly down. So, what we need to do is try and have a way of hitting this blue block with a bubble. But it's very difficult. Because especially like if we just go down like this, it's like, you know, it doesn't really seem to work. Like, there doesn't seem to be a place that we can actually hit it with a bubble. Thing is, there is one pixel you can stand on here. On the very leftmost pixel, after sliding off this ledge here, where you will connect with the ice block. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can literally just try and get used to this enough where you can eyeball it by, like, sliding towards the edge like this and then timing when to do the shot. Like, I think I'm in position now. Yep, I am. Always skills. You can see here that I'm not on the right pixel. You can see there I stopped early, so obviously I'm not on the right pixel. So mileage really varies with this method. So if that sort of thing just isn't working, then one thing that you can do here is, like I say, you can duck down like this, and if you just remotely tap very slightly on the D-pad, you can try and slide forward like pixel by pixel. And then once you get down, if you are on the leftmost pixel, then you can get the blue ice block. Like this. As far as learning to eyeball where the actual pixel is, trust me, like, it's not easy. But, yeah, my recommendation is to, as a beginner at the very least, just get used to, man. See, I can't do it. You can definitely just duck like this and try and creep forward with just tapping the D-pad for like no more than a frame ideally. And it's not that bad to get once you're used to it. But once you get it, you just go down here, break these blocks, and you get the Viking Diary. And now we just need to get back out of here. But as soon as we get out, Pete just takes the diary in exchange for giving us back our nephews. In my opinion, he could have just kept the nephews, but yeah. And we go straight onto Pete's hideout. That's a big boost. Like, that's what you want to see. So, same thing here, ride a bird. Just face Donald off to the right, so that the bombs are a lot easier to dodge. In this case, the beehives. Exciting section. You can shoot these fish if you want to go a bit faster. It's slightly faster to jump over this pulley and just fall down rather than take the pulley down. another minecart section here where you kind of just have to get used to knowing when to jump and trusting that you need to hold right more than it seems. And now I'm definitely making a save state here because the Room of Hell. This is cycles the room, and if you want to go super fast here, then you had better get used to exactly where these are going to be. It's very, very hard to traverse this section without stopping. It's possible, but it's really damn hard. Like, to be able to do this reliably is one of the most challenging things in this game. But I'll just take it fairly slowly just to show the route that you take through here. So you can see for the first set of platforms you go down. Then you go up. Then you go up again. And then you go up again. Then you go down. Then you go down again. Then up. Then basically just across. Then you go down. And there's the end. So from this platform, if you take a good running jump, you can cross it without needing a plunger platform. But the difficulty here is in taking this section quickly without stopping, because you can basically skip some cycles if you like really know where you need to be. The problem with this section with taking the cycles quickly is that the cycles are proximity based. Like, for some of the cycles to come out, you need to be close enough to them when they trigger. Like, you can see there that that next cycle didn't come out, and here it did. Because you basically need to be in the center of the platforms or a little further forward to get the cycle to trigger. And some of these you need to be very fast on to be able to reach them in time. Like, you can see there, that wasn't out. And then it's like, yeah, you're probably not going to make that unless you're very high up. So I'll try and go through this quickly. And then you're just going to kind of have to wait here. No avoiding it. And then you can make that, but tricky. And then that's very hard to make. You like really need the height there. And judging just where the platforms is, easier said than done. May as well wait here because, yep. Then I could have taken that, but, you know, as I'm saying, it's very tricky. So I just have to wait here. And then the thing is, if that platform isn't already out, you are not going to make that next cycle. That's the tricky thing. That's why you need to be really fast here. Because, like, that's what gives you the distance to make that. And this is the point where you need to be really fast, because you need, as I say, you need to be basically like in the center of this platform in order for the next set to come out in time, which you can then hopefully reach in time to skip straight to the end. Like, that's the really hard part with that. So let's get it. Should be able to make that with a running jump, I want to say. No! Yeah, you see, it's a problem. Whoops. That was just a flat-out miss. Yeah, you really need all the height there. I think you really do need to be on the top platform in order to make that. Unless you abuse a super jump, which is one of the pieces of advanced tech which I'm like, I don't really know how to do, and it involves frame perfect stuff, and it's just like, oh, why is this in the game? Bad tech. So there, I was thankfully fast enough, and you have just enough time to make that. Like, just enough time. So once you actually reach this room, this is thankfully a lot simpler. Just progress, do normal platforming, try and stay as high as possible. Just damage boost off this guy, it's much easier to do it that way. So now, the trick that I mentioned in Egypt, where you can slide off the edge of a ledge with a little bit of stored momentum and enter the ducking animation, you do the same thing here. If you just fall, I'll make sure I've got a save state again. If you just fall down this ledge without being in the ducking animation, that's a death. You can't avoid dying there. But if you make sure that you duck before going off the ledge, then you can do a mid-air slide. And you get, like, you know, a much easier shot at it by running up to it. You just need to make sure that you duck before you go off the ledge, because if you try and do down after going off the ledge, you can't duck, and that's just a guaranteed death. But as long as you do that, as long as you nail the duck before going off, then you can just do a mid-air slide and you can do that. Now, just for safety's sake, I'm going to also pick up health and ammo here. The Pete fight is not particularly difficult, but it can be a bit of a hassle. Yeah, I'll just try and avoid the enemies then, I guess. Now, Pete is going to follow a relatively scripted path to try and get to you. He just has periods where he's vulnerable. And you need to try and get him. As you can see, he's going up here. Now, while he's waiting, you may as well like try and get rid of some of the enemies with bubblegum shots or something similar if you can. And something that is weird here is you can stand right on top of Pete and abuse this. If you get a feel for it, you can just, yeah, stay on top of him and then jump off to get the next hit when necessary. If you go super high like this, then going to one of the sides and scaling the wall is one way that you can get shots on him. Especially considering you can just duck down and do this. But be aware that he can get very close to you. He can like move straight into you if he wants to. As well as going down and just taking weird routes. But It's not too tricky of a fight, and it just takes like a few shots. Once you get the Viking Diary back, now you can read it. And this shows you where the treasure is. So we go to the island. This is the last stage of the game. So, ideally try and get one more really good, like, slope boost. I hate trying to go for these on command. I swear you can get good ones, I just don't know what I'm doing. But jumping up the slope is faster than just trying to dash up it. These leaves fall and are pretty annoying. But you can slide along a couple of these. Whoops. Just keep going forward whenever you can. And get ready to scale this wall. Nice. Now, if you're playing this game on cartridge, I recommend not doing that. I recommend just playing this game on emulator, because you actually have control over which version of the game you're playing in that case, and specifically playing the version 1.1 ROM. For one specific reason, that once you get here, you're pretty much always going to be at like this health level. You're going to have barely any health left. But if you're on the 1.1 ROM, you get some free power-ups here, including a full health refill. That will like make all the difference here. Now for these irritating guards, you can score free hits on them by shooting them while you are mid-air. For some reason, if you are mid-air when you launch a shot, they won't block your shots. So that's a nice, quick and easy tip for those. Just run through them if you need. At this point, the amount of health that I have left, this can honestly like last through the rest of the game without too much difficulty. Within reason. I just don't want to take, like, additional hits and whatnot. And yeah, if you fuck around in the earlier part of this room, then you need to wait on this cycle. So you do want to try and get through this room quickly. Sharpish. So that you're not waiting on cycles. Now, having the 1 health here, like, this looks really bad, but the final boss fight that's coming up here, if you perform it correctly, it is, as they say, free! But this platforming section really sucks. Yeah. You kind of just have to practice this and get used to where the platforms are. There's not really any trick there, you just need to get used to where those are. It's not random, they are at regular intervals, so there is that. But, God is it disorienting. But either way, we're at the final boss now. And for the final fight, you want to start the fight with the popcorn. Now this is a really weird trick that you can exploit here. Now the fight normally starts by him moving 3 times and then throwing the sword. It gets stuck in the wall, and then it starts these cycles where, you know, the rocks are falling and stuff. If you just try and shoot him normally, he's not vulnerable at these spots. Once he's released the sword, so at this point, now he's vulnerable. Like if I go to the side here, you can see I can land a plunger on him. And you can get like a couple of these in per cycle, if you will. But the ideal way to start this fight is to start here, on this ledge, duck down, wait for him to throw the sword, and wait for it to pass you, and then popcorn him. Now this makes a really weird thing happen. You can see here, the sword is not stuck in the wall properly. I don't know why this works, but stopping the sword mid-flight by popcorning him at a specific time, it causes this to glitch out and the sword doesn't connect with the wall properly. During this entire time, he's vulnerable to regular attacks. So to repeat this again, there's a specific way you want to follow this up. So I'll just popcorn him again. Now you want to go to the right here, just slide past him to the right and select the bubblegum. With a nice little bit of a gap from him, you can see again, the sword hasn't collided with the wall, and now we can start bubblegumming him. you can continue this for the rest of the fight. Like, this is theoretically the run over. You can just do this until he dies. If you get unlucky with when the sword, like, unsticks and gets in the wall, you might have to dodge out of the way of a falling rock, especially if you're at 1 health like this, but this is basically run over at this point. There is almost nothing you can get wrong at this point. You just need to not mistime the bubblegum shots, but there's a very clear visual cue for this. All you need to do here is, every time you fire a bubblegum, do nothing else, and just wait for Donald's idle animation to start. Like, when you haven't done anything for a few seconds, Donald has an idle animation he goes into. He starts tapping his foot impatiently. If you wait for him to tap his foot 3 times and then fire the next shot, it'll be the correct timing for the boss's iframes to run out. And you just do this until the boss dies. This is literally it. Really is this simple. So, as I say, in certain cases you will need to make sure that you dodge a falling rock. Your distance does matter to a certain extent here, in that the bubble can be like high or low in its movement cycle, but as long as your timing is correct on the visual cue, you shouldn't really miss these shots, as long as you're not like blatantly too close to him. Probably hit the wall now. Yep. And then he goes down. And that is the run. Time is when this text box comes up. So that is literally the end of the run. I mean, you can advance it the next couple of text boxes if you want to watch the credits and whatnot, but as for the run, that is it. So let's just do it one more time. Show that it definitely works. As you can see, it's just very elementary. Almost nothing that can go wrong here, as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing. And then just dodge if you need to. And then, as I say, preferably don't miss a hit like that. So if you need to do it again, then you can just do the same thing again, except now we know he's very close to death. Like, he'll probably die here, and if not, then I can just rinse and repeat. But yeah, very simple fight. It is, for a final boss fight, honestly very pathetic if you use the cheese method like that. If you don't use the cheese method, then it's quite a bit more involved, but it's a speed run, you want to go as fast as possible. That is super simple. It's almost impossible to mess that up. Just do that. And yeah, hopefully this was very informative for people. If people do want to like go in on this game at all, do please feel free to ask me for any help, for any other questions. This was a very basic guide. Like, there is quite a lot of advanced tech and such that I didn't cover in this tutorial for like individual sections, bits and pieces, but this is a, you know, pretty basic overview. Anyone can get a pretty competitive time with this, I want to say, as long as you do the route correctly, don't miss any objectives, don't die, don't really mess anything up, and go pretty smoothly. You can really get probably what my PB manages, maybe beat my PB. It's honestly a very simple game to just try and run, but I think it's pretty, yeah, short and sweet game. So anyone wants to use this to try and run the game, I do encourage you, please feel free. And hopefully, like I say, you guys found this informative. And I will be calling that a stream as well, I believe. So thanks everyone for joining me tonight, and I will see you guys when I see you. Thanks very much for watching.